The opioid crisis. Each day, 224 people from the US die from an opioid crisis. This isn't just a statistic. This is a crisis that is tearing apart families and communities. I have witnessed opioid abuse firsthand from a girl that I used to babysit for. I am going to inform you on how COVID-19 affected the opioid crisis. First, we will briefly cover a timeline of overdoses and the opioid crisis, and then we will talk about how COVID affected it. To start the timeline. So there are three different waves of the opioid crisis. Wave one first started back in the 1990s with prescription opioid pills. And then wave two came around kind of starting in the 2010, 2011 with heroin abuse. And then wave three began in 2013 with synthetic opioids, particularly illegally made fentanyl, methamphetamines, and cocaine. In 2021, the fentanyl death rate was 21.8 per 100,000 people. The methamphetamine death rate was 10 per 100,000 people. And the cocaine death rate was 7.3 per 100,000 people. Fentanyl is made in labs to be used as a drug. It has been around since 1959, and it is used by medical professionals to provide pain relief. According to the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, it is approximately 100 times more potent than morphine. Illicitly manufactured synthetic fentanyl can be found in forms such as powder, nasal spray, candies, or tablets. There has been a rise of mixing it with other substances such as your methamphetamine and your cocaine, which is causing an increase in overdose deaths, according to Royal 2024. Now to discuss how COVID affected the opioid crisis. Between 2019 and 2022, fentanyl overdose death rates nearly doubled from 11.4 to 22.7 deaths per 100,000 people. Methamphetamine overdose death rates more than doubled from 5.0 to 10.4 deaths per 100,000 people. And cocaine overdose death rates grew by almost 70% from 4.9 to 8.2 deaths per 100,000 people, according to Flamth and Stewart. So now we'll talk about some of the vulnerable populations that are affected by it. Age is a huge one. Fentanyl overdose death rates increased significantly across all age groups. Adolescents had the largest growth rate, increasing 293%. Elderly adults aged 65 to 74 and 75 to 84 experienced the next largest growth at 177% and 152%. Overall, adults aged 35 to 44 had the highest overdose death rates. Meth increased significantly over all categories as well. Elderly adults aged 65 to 74 experienced the largest growth at 142%. Adults aged 35 to 44 had the highest overdose death rate. And then cocaine overdose death rates increased over all categories as well. Elderly adults aged 75 to 84 and 65 to 74 experienced the largest growth at 139% and 135%. However, age 35 to 44 and 45 to 54 had the highest rates, according to Flamth and Stewart. Demographics is also another big factor in it. Fentanyl increased in all the categories. American Indian and Alaska Native experienced the largest growth at 306%. American Indian and Alaskan Native also had the highest fentanyl overdose death rates. Meth increased significantly in all categories as well. American Indian and Alaska Native had the highest rates. Cocaine increased significantly in all categories as well. African American experienced the largest growth at 107%, and they also had the highest death rate. To wrap it up, I have informed you how COVID-19 affected the opioid crisis. First, we looked at the timeline and the background. Second, we looked at how COVID-19 affected the crisis. COVID-19 didn't just change the world, it worsened the opioid crisis. Now it's up to us to heal both.